As the leader of my party, I lead the incumbent protection program. Okay, that's my job. I go all around the country. I travel endlessly, incessantly. I have to raise over $300 million to do that, and we want everybody to come back. And some people, I try to protect them from themselves. You know, they kick and scream and bite their own colleagues. Some people seem to enjoy trying to inflict political pain on their own teammates. I'm not going to address anybody individually, but I'll tell you that some here are much more frustrated than others. There's a small, tiny handful, but one in particular who's given me lots of consternation. I don't understand. I don't understand Thomas Massey's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massey could have brought his discharge petition any time over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. It's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this, to team up with the Democrats and bring this discharge petition. So do I have some concern about that? I do. But you know, in me and my way, I try to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, never speak evil of another Republican. My gosh, it's hard to do sometimes around here. I also try to follow the scripture. You know, it says, bless those who persecute you. So let me just say about Thomas Massey, could you just accept my Southern, bless his heart? Okay, I don't know what else to say about it. We're for maximum transparency. We're engaging in that right now. And we don't need political games.
That was the world's most punchable face explaining why Congress adjourned early in the limited time they have to get Trump's agenda through. They adjourned early because they need to block Thomas Massey's petition to release the Epstein files. So let's, by the way, first, before we go on with that, how are you guys doing? Sorry, it has been a while. Hey, Mark. I still owe you guys a stream because I didn't do one last Sunday. First off, I had a really bad back injury. Well, I say injury as if like I somehow snapped it on something. It just, I woke up one day and my back was in agony and it lasted for the next 2 weeks. But it has gotten better, so thank God. But also we were also just getting back from the Ann Arbor Art Fair, which was an absolutely huge event and quite exhausting, especially with the injury. You know, and just to give you guys an idea, when I was building our art fair booth, I actually sprained my elbow, and I barely even noticed that pain over the back. It was so bad. But it was a great art fair. This is actually here. This is a photo of our booth. You can see this is the Washington Republican Club's booth on the right-hand side there. We've got our alligator Alcatraz shirts. You can't quite tell with the gal in the red shirts wearing a shirt that says Trump 2028. We got lots of whining complaints from the liberals about that one. Lots of, excuse me, doesn't the Constitution say? Yes, we know it's a joke. Shut up. But we had a great time. A lot of merchandise. In fact, if you see on the right side there, you see that vertically draped flag there. That's actually, I'll show you. We have a local guy who makes these, and he does these amazing wooden flags, and some of them are in this like drape. So we actually have it right here. We're giving one away to one lucky person that signed up at the Ann Arbor Art Fair or a member of the club. That's going to be a random drawing. Everyone in the club's already automatically entered, plus everyone that signed up at the art fair. It's like the solid wood flag. It's made to look like a drape. Isn't that neat? Isn't that cool? So we have this one's going to be, we haven't announced the winner yet, but it's going to be just a random drawing. And we'll give that one away at our next meeting. But if you guys want those kind of cool flags, and of course, there's the standard kinds, you know, you can almost see on the right-hand side. You can't quite see in this photo. Let me see if we can pull up another photo where you can see the side of the booth a bit better. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Whoop, that's not it. This is it. You can see he's got all these. So drop me a line if you're interested in getting one of these. We have them. But anyway, yeah, the art fair booth was amazing. You can actually see to the left side of our booth was the local disruptors have their booth, which I can't believe it. This is the on the left side here. This is the old Washtenaw County Republican Party's art fair booth, which they cut in half because they were too cheap to get a double booth space. So they cut it down to this measly 6x6, and it looked awful. So there was them on the left, the disruptors, and here was us on the right. So it was great. Yeah, Patty says great fun. Yeah, Patty was at our booth for a bit during Friday, and the same exact thing happened to me last year. There's this, I guess, high school debate team camp that goes to U of M, and this whole swarm of them besieged Patty, these liberals, and were just yelling at her with all these ridiculous arguments, and Patty was just smacking them down. It was hilarious. ordinarily you try to be diplomatic and friendly and always polite at the booth, but these people were just being obnoxious, and it was great seeing Patty just call them out. But yeah, last year, same thing. I was at the booth the same exact time, I think it was, and this Chinese kid was coming at me with all these ridiculous strawman arguments and things like that. But anyway, it was great. So a lot of fun at the Ann Arbor Art Fair. But anyway, getting onto the topics for tonight. So we've got a lot to cover because it's been 2 weeks. I will try to do another stream during this week at some point to cover other events and things. But man, it's been 2 weeks of a lot of news. So getting back to that clip there, that was, of course, House Speaker Mike Johnson lashing out at Thomas Massie, the most conservative member of the House. And let me just kind of break down what we just heard in that video. So first of all, the entire time he's talking on both sides of his mouth. So he starts off by saying, I'm in the incumbent protection program. My job is to get our caucus reelected. And then, of course, proceeds to spend the entire next minute and a half just bad-mouthing Thomas Massie. That bastard, that SOB. He didn't quite say that. He said, bless his heart, and he says, allow me some Southern, bless his heart, because if you don't know, in the South, that means what a moron. That's what that means. So he was literally calling Thomas Massie a moron. And his argument is he could have introduced this discharge petition anytime in the past 4 years. He waited till now to bring it up. Why did he do that? Why on earth did Thomas Massie do that? Well, gee, let's see, House Speaker. Until 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Donald Trump was promising to release the Epstein files, so no petition was needed. And in the previous term, in the Biden term, you couldn't because the Justice Department and the deep state wouldn't have allowed it. They just blocked everything. The whole idea is Republicans are in power now. We're supposed to be doing the things we promised we would do, and now they're not doing them. Why would that be? So, yeah, that's the timing of it. You see, and by the way, the other argument that Mike Johnson was throwing in there, and of course, all the Trump people on internet just repeat what he says blindly, that are just going around saying, "Oh, he's helping he's teaming up with the Democrats. He's teaming up with the Democrats." It's really simple, folks. Yeah, the Democrats are using this issue for political advantage because they know it's pissing off conservatives. That's all there is to it. Of course, they don't actually support releasing the Epstein files. Of course not. We get that. We know that. But if they're now offering votes to force the release of the Epstein documents, great. They're doing it because they know they can't. Because they know it's going to get blocked no matter what. Because mark my words, the resolution will fall one vote short. And if Massie gets enough Republicans with the Democrats to vote to discharge the motion to bring things to the floor, they'll get one Democrat to vote no. That's what'll happen. That is how this works. But nonetheless, we should actually carry on as if we care about policies. Yeah, Patty says debate camp. I was debating teenage girls about abortion. They were obsessed. Yeah, no, there is an actual U of M event, Patty. I did look it up. At least you can find it. University of Michigan debate camp. Yeah, it was called. Yeah, here it is. Hold on, I'll put it up on the screen. Hold on. It was called the 7-week program. Yeah, here it is. And there it is. So it's the same exact thing last year. Yeah, it was this debate camp. If you're looking for the most comprehensive and challenging summer workshop experience, the Michigan 7-week program, I actually almost reached out to them to say, hey, your students are really, really bad at debating. You should probably have at least one conservative who's an honest debater. And then I realized, why would I help them? Why would I help liberals become better debaters? So that idea went out the window. Anyway, what were we talking about again? Oh, yeah, Epstein and Thomas Massie. Yeah. The speaker says, I try to follow Reagan's 11th commandment, but it's just so hard with Thomas Massie. If you don't know, Reagan's 11th, quote unquote, 11th commandment is 7 weeks. Exactly, Patty, right? Reagan's 11th commandment, so to speak, is thou shalt not speak ill of any Republicans, or any conservative shall not speak ill of Republicans. It's complete BS. Obviously, nobody actually follows it. They just always invoke it when they want to browbeat somebody. I mean, famously, Mitt Romney wouldn't endorse Donald J. Trump for president in 2016, nor did Rick Snyder. They had no problem bad-mouthing Trump. But whenever I badmouth Mike Rogers, 11th commandment, blah, blah, blah. That's the way that goes. But yeah, now Massey had an absolutely brutal response to all this, which was just a couple of days ago when he posted this. I see some people are excited. Donald Trump can make recess appointments to fill out his staff now that Congress has recessed for August. Bad news. Speaker Mike Johnson and Leader John Thune plan to convene and adjourn every 4 or 5 days to block Trump from making those appointments. So for those who don't know, Donald Trump has had some difficulty getting his appointees through Congress. In fact, some have actually been blocked, like Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, a terrible, terrible failing, which we will come back to shortly here. And over the summer recess, there's actually the ability that the president has to make appointments during the recess. And what Matthew's pointing out here is that the House and Senate leadership, the Republican leadership, are blocking his ability to do that by doing this maneuver where they quote unquote convene, even though nobody comes to Washington, and then adjourn 2 seconds later, just to block Trump from being able to make his appointments. So Massey is pointing out here, Massey, the actual defender of the MAGA agenda, Massey, who actually does the things that Trump says he wants to do, is pointing out that the leaders in Congress are actually Trump's enemies. But Trump, as usual, is attacking Thomas Massey and ignoring his actual enemies in Congress. So there's Massey pointing out that he is actually the one that is supporting Trump's agenda. Jay says 7 months into his term, Trump's cabinet still has vacancies. Well, there's not just the cabinet level appointees, Jay. There's also all kinds of like assistant secretaries, deputy director of DNI, things like that. There's tons of appointments, not to mention judicial nominees. So yeah, there's tons and tons of appointments always. When Trump first got elected, Barack Obama left a whole bunch of court vacancies to be filled because they just couldn't get them done. So yeah. Massey, by the way, another zinger on Massey, because everyone always likes to say, well, I shouldn't say everybody. The rhinos always like to say that, oh, what has Thomas Massey ever accomplished in Washington? He just threw in another bill this week to repeal the PrEP Act. The PrEP Act is, this was that bill that came out during the COVID era to say that you can't sue vaccine manufacturers for the injuries because it's an emergency. It's an emergency. You ought to take the vaccine that hasn't been tested adequately. So Massey introduced another bill to repeal these things. And again, what are these people going to say? Oh, Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, they might introduce bills, but they'll never get anything actually passed. Well, why don't you blame the people that aren't bringing them to the vote? Not the people that are actually introducing the good bills. Why didn't Mike Johnson introduce this bill? Or his other people, Steve Scalise cackling behind him, or Tom Emmer. Why don't they ever do these things? Because they're bullshit artists, because they don't actually support any of these things, and they're not going to do them. That's why. It really is that simple. But anyway, the big issue, of course, in all this is the Epstein cover-up, which it's been 2 weeks, guys. I feel like we're so behind. So it's ancient history now, but it hadn't happened yet since the last live stream when we actually discovered why in the world did Trump suddenly do a 180 and was attacking the Epstein cover-up as a Democrat hoax. And then, of course, the Wall Street Journal story came out, which there was like rumblings about this the day, or like earlier in the day it came out. There's going to be something big. There was a big story they were working on. And I think it was Mark Halpern was like teasing it like, oh, how did Trump meet Melania? Huh? Maybe there's something more to this story. We don't know, implying there's going to be some huge thing. And this story came out and it was a complete freaking nothing burger. It was like, oh, there's an alleged, was it like a yearbook or a diary or something or other that Trump autographed, an anniversary book, a birthday book, or some kind of gibberish that Trump autographed in a lewd way that suggested his link to Jeffrey Epstein. And so tried to be a nothing burger, didn't really do much of anything. But it does, I think, give us some insight as to what was really going on that led Trump down this path, which is that he was led to believe, probably by Pam Bondi, possibly Kash Patel, possibly Dan Bongino, but probably Pam Bondi, that somehow the Epstein documents had been doctored in some way, the way the Russiagate files were, to make it look like Trump had a bigger relationship with Epstein than what was known. And this was going to be the next Russiagate. And hence, Trump started in with, this is all a big Democrat lie, all a big Democrat lie, which, as we talked about extensively 2 weeks ago, was complete nonsense and made no sense. But now, and it was such a weird, it was a bizarre thing to claim, because the Epstein documents implicate Bill Clinton, among many other people. And of course, as we spoke about 2 weeks ago, also in a big way, a lot of intelligence agencies, especially Israel. But it increasingly looks like Pam Bondi was involved in getting this, because look at Pam Bondi all over the place here. She was the one who said the evidence was on her desk, tens of thousands of documents. She was the one that then says there's nothing at all whatsoever. There's nothing at all whatsoever. We're not going to release anything at all. Now she's the one coming out and saying, oh, we've got this assistant attorney general, this deputy attorney general, Todd Blanche. The case is no longer closed. It's been opened again. And so now she claims there's no evidence of any third parties, and I'm quoting now this Todd Blanche comment, in the files maintained by the FBI. Oh, only in those files then. Only in those files maintained by, what exactly is a file maintained by the FBI? Does it count if it's a file destroyed by the FBI? Does a file altered by the FBI count as a file maintained by the FBI? And now, just this weekend, now the news is Trump is considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. Trump will have gone from, we're going to prosecute the perpetrators of this giant child rapist ring, to actually going to pardon the only person who is currently behind bars for it. In exchange for what exactly? For testimony that I promise is not going to implicate Trump? It's just remarkable. And I think this also goes, and I really do think this shows that there's a lot of reasons not to trust Pam Bondi. Now, I think Trump thinks Pam Bondi is loyal because she defended him in the in the impeachment. But I mean, anyone could have many reasons for him to defend Trump in an impeachment. Alan Dershowitz defended Trump in an impeachment, didn't mean he was loyal. It seems like Pam Bondi is kind of covering up something. Remember, she was also the Attorney General of Florida, where a lot of these things happened. Epstein didn't just have an island. He actually had 2 islands. Plus, he had houses, mansions in New York and in Florida, in California, in France, in London, all very strange. And, for all, and you keep hearing Pam Bondi make these disingenuous arguments like, oh, we can't unseal anything because we have to protect the victims. That's BS, and they know it's BS because, of course, they can redact those things. And also, by the way, nobody cares about the identities of the victims. We don't need to see the sex tapes. We want to know, first of all, who the people are, the perpetrators. It's not the victims we want to identify. It's the perpetrators. And also, if you don't need to go the sex route, go the financial route. Epstein was laundering billions and billions and billions of dollars. Randy Guppy says, you can't release documents with people's names you're not charging with the crime. That's not entirely true. I understand what you're saying. That it's often imprudent to release documents that have people's names in them if they're not going to be charged. It doesn't mean they can't. It might complicate an actual prosecution. But here's the thing, folks. Where's the prosecutions? Okay. Why they could have gone that route in the first place? They could have said, okay, this is an ongoing investigation. We'll get back to you once we have brought charges. That's the game they played. Remember the game they played with what's a special counsel named Durham? I forget what his first name is. The guy with the huge goatee. That guy, remember him? He was on the case. Remember that? He was on the case. And he puts out a report and nothing happened. That was the end of it. By the way, one other thing I wanted to mention. Because again, this is a very deep story, and there's a reason why people care so much about it. Also, by the way, as a side note, this does prove something else, which is that MAGA is not a cult. I mean, there are some folks that will defend Trump no matter what he says or what he does, and you know who you are. but there's a lot of people that are very upset about this and aren't going to let it go because they understand it is important. Here's an interesting clip. This is from 1997. Let me go to this video here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Is he still in office? Oh, he is. Allegedly used tapes of Bill Clinton's phone sex calls with Monica Lewinsky to pressure the White House into releasing convicted spy Jonathan Pollard. Jonathan Pollard stole our nuclear secrets and gave them to Russia, by the way. So, kind of a high-level act of treason, who has now been pardoned and living happily in Israel. Clinton reportedly told Monica Lewinsky that a foreign embassy had tapped their phone. The story, long buried, resurfaced amid speculation about Israel's role in blackmail operations tied to Epstein. You see why this kind of matters?
Clinton's secretary, Betty Curry, reached out to Lewinsky to invite her to an Oval Office meeting, telling her Clinton, quote, had something important to tell her, unquote. It would turn out to be their final sexual encounter. But Clinton also used the opportunity to tell her that a, quote, foreign embassy had tapped his phone and recorded their conversation, Lewinsky said. Clinton did not specify which embassy, though the meeting with Lewinsky came the month after his meeting with Netanyahu. The special prosecutor's report was far more concerned with Lewinsky's claim of the sexual encounter that day because it contradicted Clinton's claim that they had had only one encounter that year than they were with the fact that a foreign government was spying on the president and letting him know about it. The prosecutor was also interested in Clinton's response, namely that he proposed cover stories. These are cover stories that the two could employ if they were confronted with the tapes. Clinton suggested the pair say they knew they were under surveillance and the phone sex was a, quote, put on for whoever was listening. It's an awfully flimsy idea, but...
Yeah, it sounds like inoculating the herd, right, Todd Corser? But that's a story for another time. Anyway, Mary asks, why claim you are releasing documents if you know they have innocent names in them? Well, I'm not talking about the victims. Those names certainly should be redacted. And nothing that anyone's proposing prevents them from being redacted. But if we're talking about suspects, they're not innocent. They just haven't been charged. They might be acquitted. They might be genuinely innocent. But why do this? Because the public has a right to know. Because when you have a guy who somehow trafficked and laundered tens of billions of dollars and trafficked sex with minors, and that's been linked in case after case after case to thousands of high-profile people, including multi-billionaire donors that have enormous impact on politics, this is an enormous public interest issue. That's why people care about this. We want to know who's manipulating our politics, because when you have a situation where the public overwhelmingly wants something and the government doesn't do it, and the reason might not be because they care about their election, but because they're being blackmailed by a foreign intelligence agency, that's kind of a big deal. Or because the money that controls the politicians is being manipulated by a foreign intelligence agency. Or even a domestic one, for that matter. By the way, one of the names that came up in this whole thing here was Dan Bongino. I thought I had this clip pulled up, but now I'm struggling to find it. But Bongino put out this kind of went viral. Here we go. I found it here. During my tenure here as deputy director of the FBI, I've repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations is a priority for us. But what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. We're going to conduct these investigations and blah, blah, blah. This is something that these guys in Trump administration, they keep doing this. They keep teasing us. Oh, you wouldn't believe the things we know. If you knew them, we'd have to kill you. But trust us, we're working very hard. There is a saying in politics, always under promise and over deliver. And what the administration does over and over, and not just with this, but we're going to we'll have a deal with Russia and Ukraine in the next 2 weeks. We'll have a peace deal in the next couple of weeks here. We'll have a trade deal in the next couple of days, 50 days until we resolve the Russia-Ukraine thing. this just goes on and on and on. Why are you telegraphing this stuff if you've got nothing to report? Like, just tell us the truth when you can tell us the truth. And if not, stop teasing us. Okay, so you've discovered these amazing things. Well, what are they? Mark says, I'm not ashamed to admit, that's what he meant to say. I'm not ashamed to admit I'm one of those individuals who will defend Trump no matter what. Yes, I referred to me when I said that. Well, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's not just that. I mean, look, I get it. And by the way, one of the good things in the news this week is that Democrats' approval ratings are in the absolute toilet because the public can't stand them. Thank God. So no matter how much the Trump administration doesn't deliver, the Republicans might still win everything next year anyway, because the Democrats are even more terrifying. But I mean, why would anybody defend Trump no matter what? That's just giving him more reason to be a disappointment. Like, no, we actually want you to do the things you promised you were going to do. Like, you're supposed to be different, man. Like, if all Trump does is the same things that George Bush would have done, which is more and more what it seems like, then what was this whole revolution about? I mean, I thought we were draining the swamp and we were going to take back the government and all this stuff. Well, we'll see what's going to happen. But when things are not looking good, you got to call this stuff out. So this story has obviously not died. The whole Trump thing saying this is a big Democrat hoax did not work, as we've just been discussing. Now they are interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell. They're trying to do something. Again, we shall see. But in the meantime, Trump has thrown all kinds of things out there to try to make the base happy again, because I think they know, despite their trumpeting of these poll results that say Trump is more popular than ever before, that there's a lot of discontent. A lot of people are getting restless about this stuff. So Trump has put out all kinds of various ideas. One of them being, we're going to have real sugar in our sodas. Yay! Well, never mind the giant sex pedophile ring. We got real sugar in our sodas. Hooray! I talked to Coca-Cola, which is good. It's a good thing. But it's like, I think we played this clip 2 weeks ago of Tucker Carlson at the TPUSA summit saying, I feel like all we're getting from the administration is appetizers. I want the main course. We want the main course, which is either going to be, major indictments of the deep state, or, really doing a 180 on all this foreign policy stuff. But, renaming the Washington whatever's back to the Redskins, and the Cleveland's team back to the Indians. Great. I like it. Culture war stuff. I get it. I'm in support of it. He actually posted on X when he announced the Redskins thing. He's trying to win me back. But these are small things. And then came this one. Put this up on the screen. Trump has a new executive order that will essentially override the laws that closed the mental asylums in the 1960s, allowing states to once again involuntarily reinstitutionalize people deemed a danger to themselves or others. And I get it. Again, you want to remove people who are these complete crazies on the streets, right? Well, that's good. I understand wanting to do something about that. But Matt Walsh nails it. This is what he actually posted. I support this in theory, but it needs to be accompanied by absolutely massive reforms of the psychiatric industry, which I don't see happening. If you guys haven't seen, there's been actually polls like 90% plus of the whole psychiatric profession are far left-wingers. So, yeah, it sounds great. Remove the crazies, put them back in the psych wards, which are overfilled, by the way. But the problem is, get ready for, as Matt says, get ready for conservatism and other inconvenient ideologies to be labeled mental disorders, which must be treated for the patient's own good, of course, with involuntary commitment. Involuntary commitment's a bad premise to begin with. This is an idea the Trump administration has floated for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of a thing that sounds like a good policy on the surface until you dig into it. But was anybody going out and saying, yeah, we need to have more involuntary commitments? We need to have more, what's the word for it? Voluntary institutionalizations. I don't think anyone's saying that. But these are all like these little things Trump's been trying to do to kind of win us back. Oh, here's one for you. So the Trump administration came out hard against Maria Salazar, a congresswoman from Florida who put in this amnesty bill. She swears it's not amnesty, but it's absolutely amnesty. It's so much amnesty that it would actually allow terrorist Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia to be dragged back to the United States and freed. That's how much of an amnesty bill it actually is. But she claims it's not amnesty. The Trump administration says, we will not tolerate any amnesty on our watch. You know, except, of course, Trump just weeks ago said, we're just not enforce the law against farm workers and hotel workers. He announced it twice, actually once like a month and a half ago and then 2 weeks ago. Brooke Rollins said that's what they're going to do. But that's not amnesty. Remember, that's what they always say. Whenever it's an amnesty, they say it's not amnesty. So there's no amnesty, even though they announced amnesty. Trump himself said, we're going to allow farmers, ConAgra, Tyson Foods, these agribusiness giants to continue to employ illegal aliens, and we're not going to take away their people. Basically, their slave labor can stay. We're going to deport the ones we don't like. So anyway, so Trump is like railing against this Maria Salazar bill, even though they're actually doing it anyway, at least to some degree. So, but of course, the big thing, the biggest thing, the biggest sop to MAGA base is the Russiagate revelations, which let's be clear here. So Tulsi Gabbard has been, and by the way, first of all, props to Tulsi. Remember who he said was going to be great in the Trump administration last fall before inauguration? We did a stream. We were talking about who's going to be good and who's going to be bad in the Trump administration. Tulsi Gabbard, S tier, going to be awesome. So Tulsi did everything Tulsi can do as DNI. She can't bring charges. That's Pam Bondi's job. Let's talk about that in a minute. But she comes out swinging. Clear, compelling evidence of extensive criminal conspiracy involving top-level Obama officials and Obama himself. And everybody's been hooting because it's great. But of course, the real question is, what will this all come to? If this will come to prosecutions, great. But will it? Because if you're just telling us that we now know that the Hillary Clinton campaign and Barack Obama administration and these intelligence people, they all lied. They all lied when they claimed that Trump was an instrument of Russia. Well, no kidding. We've all known that for years. Here's the Epoch Times' great Spygate chart, which they put out in, I want to say 2018. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Look at the very top left. October 2018, updated November 2019. And here they all are. You can look at the whole thing. It's a very big chart, but you've got Hillary and Obama, of course, at the top, along with Brennan and Clapper. And there's a whole big mess of people who are named DOJ. You got Loretta Lynch, Sally Yates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just look at that all in your own time. Point being, we know all this stuff. Question is, will there be charges? And now they are all in. Trump has made these claims now, which are by the way, merit. I mean, they have merit. They are meritorious claims. Absolutely. And for the record, by the way, I absolutely do believe they should follow through on this. This is a huge issue. This is not yesterday's news. You have to really rack your brain to remember just how awful it was when just every day the American people are being inundated with claims that the Trump administration was illegitimate. The damage it did to the Trump administration as a whole, to the legitimacy of his presidency, that alone was enormous. And of course, it also laid the foundation for the hatred of Russia, the war against Russia that we started by funneling weapons into NATO, or NATO weapons into Ukraine. That provocation, the whole thing. The Trump impeachments were based on what? The first one was all based upon Trump pressuring the Ukrainian prosecutor. Remember all that? It all came back to Russia and Ukraine. Here's a compilation from Newsbusters from the Media Research Center. Remember, this was Life in 2017. Here we go.
Hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our...
Hold on. Okay, here we go. Rewind.
Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election.
No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes, Russia hacked the election.
Fact, Russia hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
The president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
President Trump says he still wonders if the Russians hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
If he admits it, it casts a shadow on his victory over Hillary Clinton.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Let's be clear, Russia hacked the election.
Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
Election-related cyber hacking.
Cyber hacking of U.S. elections.
Cyber hacking of the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
The CIA, the FBI, NSA,
All of these intelligence organizations,
17 intelligence agencies
all conclude that Russia hacked the election.
If we find out that Donald Trump just theoretically was colluding with Russia while they were hacking the election, that is completely impeachable.
This dossier alleged a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian effort to hack the election.
The director of national intelligence, the head of the National Security Agency, the head of the FBI, all of these intelligence experts saying Russia hacked the election.
The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, I mean, they've all said this. So to believe that that's wrong, you have to believe they're all involved in an elaborate conspiracy to get Donald Trump, which seems a little far-fetched to me.
Yeah, that's why when polls were done in 2017, 70% of the American people believed Russia stole the election. Even Republicans believe this. So it hamstrung the Trump administration. It delegitimized his administration, and it led to Russophobia and the push for war with Russia. It's absolutely insane. So yes, this is worth going after. In fact, this and all the other stunts too, by the way, the false impeachments as well. By the way, I want to go back real quick because Barry did clarify his comment earlier. He was saying the stupidity of the claim by Bondi and then back. Okay, so his earlier comment, why claim you're releasing the documents? So what he was saying was, why would Pam Bondi claim that she's releasing documents if she knows that the names in them were not guilty? And the answer is obviously because she's making stuff up as she goes. Trump himself on the Russiagate topic made a comment in passing to a reporter and says, "Well, I know," because he's posting all these memes about Obama being arrested. And then he says to this reporter, "Well, obviously I know that they're not going to, they can't charge Obama because he's got presidential immunity." Who told him that? That's not true. Immunity only applies to actual acts you perform in your duties as president. It doesn't apply to sabotaging the incoming administration in a political act. Who told them that they couldn't prosecute Barack Obama? My money's on Pam Bondi. Trump thinks she's loyal because he doesn't understand these legal details. So a couple of things could happen at this point. One is Tulsi is bringing the evidence, like the receipts, the one thing we did not get at any point. I mean, if you followed closely, like people who are really covering this, like Victoria Tensing, people like that were really covering Russiagate as it happened in the moment. You knew the whole thing was a big fat lie. But now Tulsi has really ripped the cover open on a lot of documents, a lot of things we didn't know about before. And now we'll see. Again, this comes back to overpromising and under-delivering. Now now Pam Bondi must bring charges against the perpetrators of this enormous act of sabotage, this treasonous conspiracy, as Tulsi accurately put it. And we'll see. We will see who she picks for this so-called strike force. We'll see where they charge them. Will it be in the Southern District of Florida if they want a conviction, or will it be in Washington, D.C. if they want an acquittal? We'll see. We shall see. But if they do nothing in the next 3 years, then this will all have been another put on. Just like, remember the whole first administration. Bill Barr is one attorney general. Oh, he'll get to the bottom of Russiagate. Durham, he'll get to the bottom of Russiagate. We were teased and teased and teased of this stuff for the better part of Trump's first term. Now they better produce. They have to produce. If they don't produce charges, then we'll know this is all smoke and mirrors. You know what else I'm thinking about all this? Tulsi Gabbard needs to look at the Epstein files. Because I guarantee you, Bondi told Trump, there's things in there about you. They're not true, but they're going to look bad. But they're doctored. Tulsi's the one who can sort through all that stuff. The intelligence will say whether or not this document's authentic, this document's not authentic, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, Trump also sued the Wall Street Journal, but the outcome of that case will not necessarily mean that whether the document was authentic or not. You know, it will probably not get past. It'll probably not get past a motion to dismiss, honestly. And I think that's probably what they want, because if it went to discovery, there'd be a whole lot of depositions of Donald J. Trump. They wouldn't want that. So they're hoping for a settlement or for a dismissal, but we'll see where all that goes. Anyway, what else has been in the news this week? Oh yeah, some wars have been going on. Trump gave Russia a 50-day ultimatum, or else end the war, or else we will tariff you. We will tariff your trading partners. We will tariff China. To which China responded, "No, we're not going to respond to any of your threats." So we'll see. Right now, Russia is storming a city called Pokrovsk in Ukraine, which is the next hugely fortified place in the war. Last year, the big one was a smaller city called Avdiivka. And before that was this place called Bakhmut. These are like these big strategic cities where the fighting's taken months and months and months, because it's been hugely fortified. And the word in the war blogs, and obviously a lot of this is, you know, fog of war stuff, but what people are saying and what is consistent with what you'd expect is that it's going better than expected for Russia, because the Ukrainian army is just they are disintegrating. They are losing the war. They are being attrited. They have less than they ever have had. Their morale has gone down. And so who knows where we're going to be in 50 days. Zelensky looks wrecked, like even more than usual. But where that's all going to go, who knows? Maybe Trump thinks that Ukraine will surrender, but the point is, though, no matter what the outcome is, it's not going to go well for Trump. He will be blamed. What are you going to do? Give him more Patriot systems? So Trump says, we're going to give Ukraine, was it? I think he said 17 Patriots. No. What does that mean exactly? 7 Patriot systems? We hardly have that many. 7 Patriot batteries, 7 Patriot missiles. That'll last a day. And then he says, it'll be great. Germany will pay for them. Germany will pay for them. And then Germany's like, wait, hold on. First off, we will give them our Patriots if you give us newer Patriots, which will take at least another 6 months. So those aren't coming in at any real rate of speed. So Trump's like, yeah, we're giving Ukraine more weapons, which we're not really giving them. So how's this going to work? Like, what's going to happen when this war goes to its inevitable military conclusion? It's all just there's these things in the works. Trust us, trust the plan. This is all coming. What's going to happen when this thing reaches an end? And again, Trump had the easiest path. This was Biden's war. We're done with it. It's been a failure. No. And yet it just drags on. Meanwhile, there has been a huge global uproar over the genocide in Gaza that's now turned into an acute famine, and thousands and thousands of Gazans dropping dead from starvation. Even France, even the globalist Emmanuel Macron is calling for a Palestinian state. Not that he actually believes in one, but he knows his base wants it. That's the thing. Emmanuel Macron is like enormously unpopular. But globally, everybody is like, this is, I mean, you're even seeing now mainstream media in American and European publications talking about this like widespread famine, because Israel's like blocking any food aid from coming in. It's just crazy. I think what I just saw was it Tucker? Somebody just recently interviewed. No, it wasn't Tucker, but there's an interview recently with a doctor who said the one thing they will not let into Gaza is baby formula. Doctors cannot bring baby formula into Gaza. I mean, it's crazy. And guess what? Former Biden Secretary of State Anthony Blinken goes on TV saying, you know, it's really the anti-war protesters that are the fault in Gaza. And another travesty that Trump could have blamed on Biden, but now he owns it. What caused October 7th? Joe Biden's weakness. But now he's taken, you know, he's had 3 visits from Benjamin Netanyahu. Now Israel's policy is our policy. And everyone knows it. Everybody knows it. Anthony Blinken, Biden's Secretary of State, was the one that supported when Israel went after the United Nations Relief Workers Agency, which like caused that famine. But now it's going to be on Trump. Trump's going to get blamed for that too. What else is going on in the world? Oh, here's something that kind of funny. There was a Zelensky, the president of the dictator of Ukraine. I almost said prime minister, then I almost said president. The dictator of Ukraine, Zelensky, announced they were going to break up these so-called anti-corruption agencies, which are basically the West's watchdogs on our money. And all of a sudden, protests started popping up in Ukraine, like as if perhaps some Western agencies didn't like having their access cut off. And now Zelensky's backpedaling. Now all the Western news media are posting these stories about how Zelensky is lost the trust of the Ukrainian people. And this is, I don't think there's going to be like a Maidan coup. It's not like they're going to overthrow Zelensky. That's not what's coming. But what this is a signal of is, again, the complete disintegration of the entire Ukraine project. John C. King says, Inspector General Office, Trump's first term. Yep. We were hoping. Yeah, the whole situation in Ukraine is a complete disaster. And again, not Trump's fault, but he will be blamed for it because he did not just walk away. So there was that. What else we got this week? Oh, speaking of Gaza and all that, Lindsey Graham posted this. The French government's decision to recognize a Palestinian state is curious and disturbing on multiple levels. I am certain this will embolden Hamas and make a ceasefire more difficult. In addition, there are some questions that come to mind. Who's in charge? What are the borders and boundaries? What is the governance structure? Does Hamas stay politically involved militarily? Is the West Bank and Gaza part of a single state? Are they allowed to have an army? Does the education system change? On these few missing details, seems like a foolproof plan. Well, glad to see the foreign policy brains of the Trump administration have some thoughts on a Palestinian state. By the way, these are actually, none of these questions are very hard. These are not missing details. Let's go through them. Who's in charge? The Palestinian Authority. What are the borders and boundaries? The June 1967 borders. What is the governance structure? That's the business of the Palestinian people. Does Hamas stay involved politically or militarily? They've already said no. Is the West Bank and Gaza part of a single state? Yes. Are they allowed to have an army? Most nations are. Does the education system change? What does that even mean? Does the education system change? What business is that of ours? So there you go, Lindsay. Simple. No problem. So glad he's on board with that plan. Anyway, what else is happening? Oh, here's a news story. John C. King says, I like Lindsey Graham, but he's like Macron, can't take him seriously. Funny you mentioned those two, because so Macron came out and supported the Palestinian state, and Trump comes out and says, no one cares what Lindsey Graham or what Emmanuel Macron thinks. Basically, he said Emmanuel Macron's a nobody, which I love. I look any time Trump is belittling Europe, smacking Europeans around, I'm happy to see because they deserve it. But Lindsey Graham is not like Macron. Lindsey Graham is the one sabotaging Trump's foreign policy. Lindsey Graham is the one blocking Trump's appointments. Lindsey Graham is the one who is telling Trump, you need to stay tough with Russia. You need to sanction Russia. Lindsey Graham is the one that came up with this bone-crushing sanctions idea, which now Trump has been forced to work with. He should have just from the get-go said, no. Should put a statement of administration policy right then and there. We oppose Lindsey Graham's plan. We are negotiating with the Russians. This plan cripples our ability to negotiate a peaceful settlement of the conflict, and we do not support it in its form. Period, paragraph. But he didn't do that. Instead, Trump comes out and now says, I will, on my own initiative, sanction Russia. So he's letting Lindsey Graham shape his foreign policy. He's endorsing Lindsey Graham while he's attacking Thomas Massie. So unfortunately, John, I despise Lindsey Graham, but I must take him seriously because he is effectively our foreign policy president. Anyway, what else is in the news this week? Oh, yeah. So here's a big story that came out this week. University of Michigan faces actually 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, faces federal investigation after arrest of 2 Chinese students. Why were there 2 Chinese students being arrested? 2 Chinese students linked to the school were separately charged with smuggling biological materials into the United States. The Education Department on Tuesday opened an investigation into the university's foreign funding, citing the pair of cases that were announced days apart in June. It is highly disturbing. So the highly disturbing criminal charges raise concerns about Michigan's vulnerability to national security threats from China. Despite the University of Michigan's history of downplaying its vulnerabilities to malign foreign influence, recent reports reveal... Here, make this bigger. Sorry, guys. There we go. Where was I? Recent reports reveal that U of M's research laboratories remain vulnerable to sabotage, said Paul Moore, chief investigative counsel of the department. President Trump has made it a priority to increase transparency around foreign gifts and contracts to U.S. universities, especially those tied to China. Really, though, did he? I swear I remember Trump speaking about this just very recently. What was that? What was that about? What was it Trump said again? Oh, I remember now. This was after the China sanctions thing. Remember that? Trump imposed tariffs on China, so China imposed tariffs back. And then they came to a deal. Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. Well, this is another thing Trump likes to do too. You guys notice this when Trump likes to say, I've always said this. I've always said that. I've always said that the farm workers should be allowed to stay. I've always said Chinese nationals should be allowed to come to our universities. Always been good with me. That's amazing. Maybe this whole, Chinese students importing bioweapons thing might change that. I kind of hope it does. Maybe you should talk to his Homeland Security people about that. I don't know. But one more story for this week. Matt Walsh has, I think, teased up his new movie. He was talking about a lot of these foreigners that are now running for offices in the United States, like in particular this Somali guy in Minnesota, and of course Zohrab, whatever his name is, Mamdani, running for mayor of New York City, and how he got into an argument with somebody on X about how these people should be deported. You can't deport them because they're Americans. They were born here. And yeah, but if they were born here if they were born here to people that are not really loyal to the United States, then how American are they really? And he seems to be teasing his next movie when he asks, what is an American? And I just hope this becomes his next movie. What is an American? That would be absolutely perfect, wouldn't it? He, I'm trying to find the relevant tweet. Well, I know there's one on his show channel, so let me go to that real quick. Matt Walsh show. If you guys don't watch Matt Walsh, you should. But yeah, his last one is "What is an American?" And he's talking about the segment that he's particularly talking about. Let's see if he's got the link to it right here. Looks like only the host. Oh, here we go. So yeah, so you got this. Here's a nice clip for you right here.
Policies, how can the politics in Somalia can be, resonate what we have here in the United States, the democracy that we have. How can you help us, be a better country and build back what we used to have back in long time ago? So hopefully we will be able to help our country, our former country, Somalia.
So that was the woman who you just heard. She just caught herself. She said, we're going to help our country. I mean, our former country, Somalia. There's a woman who just got elected a mayor in Maine. Does she look like the average Maine resident to you? I don't think so. So it looks like Matt Walsh will have a movie coming out. I hope that's what he's hinting at, called What is an American, which will be awesome. We need a Matt Walsh movie about immigration. That will be fantastic. I hope Ann Coulter is his script consultant on it. It's going to be awesome. We'll see. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part. I think that's going to mostly do it for us for tonight, guys. I will try to have a more Michigan-oriented stream at some point during the week. Mark says, "Are you done yet about being anti-Trump?" Lol. I said it before, Mark. I will say it again. I am going where the headlines take me. I started this year so thrilled, so excited, so happy. And to be fair, there have been some great things that have been happening. I think everything Trump has been doing in the energy and environment sector has been awesome. He's done a lot of great things with parental rights and education. Could do a lot more yet. I'm still waiting to see the Department of Education being abolished. Where is the Department of Education Abolition Act? But on huge things, these are not small things. Foreign policy is a huge thing. The national debt is a huge thing. Jeffrey Epstein is a huge thing. And more broadly, the biggest problem Trump has with all of these issues is Congress. And instead of attacking his rhino enemies in Congress, he's attacking the conservatives. And it's not good. The only two Republicans who are speaking their minds are Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And one of these days he's going to come for her too. And you shouldn't be treating your friends worse than your enemies. Thomas Massie and Rand Paul should have had high roles in this Trump administration, like Tulsi Gabbard does. If we had more Tulsi Gabbards in this administration and not jackals like Marco Rubio and Pam Bondi, we'd have a much, much better administration. And this goes back. Remember Matt Gaetz? Matt Gaetz was supposed to be our attorney general. Do you think Matt Gaetz would have pulled this garbage with the Epstein files? What happened to Matt Gaetz? Oh, that's right. Congress said no. And Trump was not willing to die on that hill. He should have. Because remember the first administration? Congress controlled him. He signed the first time he signed their budget. I'm never going to sign a piece of garbage like this again. And then he signed the next one and signed the next one and signed the next one because they held impeachment over his head. And on it went. And then Trump got reelected last year. Now Trump is decisively in charge. He has the mandate of the American people. If he wants to break the skull of Lindsey Graham, politically speaking, he could have. But he didn't. He chose to go after Thomas Massie. For what? For doing the right thing. For doing the right thing on Epstein, for doing the right thing on Big Pharma, for doing the right thing on the budget. John C. King says Gates hung his own noose with Congress. Nah. It was Trump's call. He could have made them vote on it. He could have dragged it out every day. We do not have an attorney general because of you. Actually, you know, the attorney general, what was the guy's name? The guy from the Ed Martin would have been the acting attorney general for potentially a long time. They could have litigated all those BS allegations against Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz fought them all and won. Trump had political capital to spend. He said, no, I'm sorry. I had the deep state's attorney general my first term. I will not have one again. I am choosing my own attorney general. And I chose Matt Gaetz. Had he chosen Matt Gaetz, we would have had indictments of Epstein by now. So, disappointing. Hopefully things turn better. I really hope they do. And in the meantime, more people speaking out about mistakes Trump is making, the more likely he might actually someday catch wind of it. So, until then, I don't know, folks. Like I said, fortunately, the midterms are shaping up to be a disaster for the Democrats because of their own stupidity. But I don't want a race to the bottom. I want Democrats down below the floor and Republicans way up here to the point where Americans are going, yeah, fuck yeah, Donald Trump. Fuck yeah, Republicans. Bring those pedophiles to justice. Bring our money home. Stop these stupid globalist foreign wars. Tell Europe to go fuck itself. But that's not happening. In fact, I think, speaking of Europe, the only people who seem to be bending to Trump's will on trade are like Europe and Japan, the usual patsies, which means Trump's going to lean into them more. It's too bad. Anyway, let's hope things improve. And again, Congress is on recess now because the House adjourned early to stop Thomas Massie from revealing uncomfortable facts about Jeffrey Epstein. That is something that should not be let go, ever. All right, guys, that will do it for us for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. We will, I promise, have a stream at some point during this coming week. And again, by the way, if you want to find one of these amazing, solid wood, beautiful American flags in all kinds of designs, after you saw that one, he has the contoured flags, he's got the thin blue line flag, et cetera, all kinds of neat stuff. Drop us a line, Adam at rescuemichigan.com. I'll put you in touch with the guy that makes these things because they are solid and beautiful to behold. So, all right, guys, thanks again for all you do for liberty. Until next time, peace.